And in the first 4 lessons, we will be talking about the string section of the orchestra, and the other 4 sections, the other in the lessons, first 4 lessons 5, 6, 7, and 8, we will be talking about the woodwind section in the first 4. So during the course, you will have 2 practical assignments. One, you will have to orchestrate. I will give you a piano piece, and you will have to orchestrate it for a string section. And the second practical assignment will be, I will give you a piano piece, and you will have to orchestrate it for a string section. Have to orchestrate it for the second practical assignment will be, so I will give you a piano piece, and you will have to orchestrate this for. Let I share screen. Just giving the string section. Great. So let's start talking a little bit about the bibliography. This is probably the most important book that we are going to use, The Study of Orchestration by Samuel Adler. He's an American teacher and composer. When I say American, I mean he's from the United States. And well, it's a really, really great and complete orchestration manual. All these manuals discuss topics of instrumentation. In a couple of minutes, we will see what are the differences between instrumentation and orchestration. But well, this book, The Study of Orchestration, discuss topics of instrumentation and orchestration. It's a big book. I think it has about 600 pages, maybe. I don't remember exactly. Well, then this is the other important book, Orchestration by Walter Piston. Piston is, again, he is an American composer, orchestrator, and teacher. And his book is really, really great. Well, and the other one is The Technique of Contemporary Orchestration by Casera. Casera is an Italian teacher and orchestrator. Then we have these 2 other books that are not so important because they are old books. They are treatises from Rimsky-Korsakov, the very famous Russian composer, and Hector Berlioz, the other French composer. And well, these books are from the 19th century, so they are a little bit old. I mean, it is good to read them, but we will not focus on these books, but we will be using these ones. Let's continue. Sorry. Here we go. Well, the first thing we are going to see, what is orchestration? What is the difference between orchestration and instrumentation? Well, here we have the definition. Orchestration is the art of employing instrument in various combinations, most notably the orchestra. Well, see that here we are talking about employing instruments in different combinations, in various combinations. Now, if we see the definition of instrumentation, we'll see that it's the study of properties and capabilities of individual instruments. So, for example, if we are studying instrumentation, the questions that we are going to ask are, for example, what is the range of the flute? There, I am asking about the capabilities of the flute. That is an individual instrument. But if I am studying orchestration, I would ask to myself, how do I do if I want to write a melody in the woodwind section and an accompaniment with the string section, for example. There, I'm talking about combining different sections and different instruments. Now, let's see. In the orchestra, we have 4 big sections. You can say sections or choir, both words means exactly the same. So we have the string section, woodwind section, brass section, and percussion section. In the string section, we have first violin, second violin, viola, cello, and double bass. In the woodwind section, we have the flutes, the oboes, clarinets, bassoons, and sometimes, depending on the repertoire that the orchestra is going to play, we can have the saxophone. So yes, the saxophone is a woodwind instrument, although some people think that it is made of brass, so it could be from the brass section. No, the saxophone is a woodwind instrument and goes with the flute, with the oboe, with the clarinet, and the bassoon. Then the brass section, well, we have the trumpet, the trombone, the tuba, trumpet, trombone, tuba, and the horns. And the percussion section, well, there are a lot of different instruments that we can use. Just to name a few of them, we can say the most important ones are the timpani, maybe the triangle, the gong, the drums, the bass drum, and another ones that use mallets, like the vibraphone or the marimba, and that kind of instruments. Well, today we will focus on the both string instruments. So we have the 4 sections in the orchestra, and we will focus on the string section. But there are another string instruments, for example, the guitar, the harp, that we are not going to see today. And we will focus on the ones that are played with a bow. A bow is a wooden stick made of Pernambuco wood. It's really like flexible, and the string players hold it in their right hand. So today we'll be focusing on the violin, viola, cello, and double bass. Well, let's start with the number of players in the orchestra. This number of players have been changing during the last centuries. For example, if you look at the 18th century orchestra, there were just a few players. I mean, in the orchestra, maybe you had less than 50 people. But in a modern orchestra, if you want to play the orchestral works from Wagner or Strauss, you need more than 100 players, maybe 120 players. So this is like the standard orchestra, let's say. We have 16 first violins, 14 second violins, 10 violas, 10 cellos, and 8 double basses. See that if we add all these numbers, I mean, if we add 16 and 14, we have 30 equals 30. We add 10 equals 40. We add 10 equals 50, and we add 8 equals 58. So almost 60 players only in the string section. That's a lot of people playing simultaneously. And it is important to notice that two string players share one stand. So if you have 16 first violins, you'll have 8 stands because 2 players share one stand. And well, the same with the second violins, violas, cellos, and double basses. They always share the stand. That is important because there are some special indications that composers and orchestrators use that has to be with this kind of divisions within the section. We'll see that in a couple of minutes. So let's start with the violin. It's the soprano instrument of the string section. And all music for violin is written in the treble clef. We'll see then that the viola is written in another clef, the C clef. And the cello and the basses can use various clefs. But for now, let's see the parts of the violin. This big part is called the body of the instrument. And so here we have the 4 strings. We know that the violin, the viola, and the cello, and usually the double basses also have 4 strings. The double bass could have a 5th string, but well, at least the violin has 4 strings. This little thing here is called the scroll. These holes here are called the F holes because they seem like a letter F. Well, this one seems like a letter F, and this one is the same inverted. This is the bridge. It is a wooden piece. This is called the tail. And this is the chin rest. Well, I can't laser it. Well, but you get the point. That's the chin rest. This is important. This black piece here is called the fingerboard, and is the part where the violinist presses the left hand fingers. And well, here we see a girl playing her violin with the bow. See that it is a wooden stick with a horse hair. Well, this is not that important, but I tell you, some people call this part of the instrument the shoulders. So just in case you listen to it. Now let's talk about the tuning. The violin is tuned in fifths. What does it mean? That if you play the open string, an open string is the sound that the string produces when you don't use your left hand fingers. So you draw the bow across the string, and you get the lowest note you get is this one. You guys can hear the piano if I play?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, so always in the string instruments, the highest string is number 1, and then at least in the violin, the lowest string is the 4th string. And we put that with Roman numerals, such so as they are indicated here. So the lowest string is G, and if we go to the third string and we play it as an open string, we get this D. So see that we have a perfect fifth between G and D. That's why we say it's tuned in fifth, because now we have again this pattern in the third string. We are always talking about open strings. So here you have a D, and if you play the second string, you get an A. So here there is another perfect fifth from D to A. And now the same. If you play the second string and then you play the first string, you get a perfect fifth. That's all about the tuning. So this is very important to know the tuning of the string instruments. You will have to know it when you want to orchestrate. So keep in mind this and try to memorize it as soon as you can. Now let's see the range of the violin. Well, here it says the orchestral range, because it's like kind of the practical range that we can use on the violin. It could produce higher notes, but they are not practical in orchestral writing. So this is the practical range, let's say, the orchestral range. Well, we know that this is the lowest note that a violin can produce, because it's the fourth string played as an open string without using your left hand fingers. And this is the highest note. See that we have this symbol, so it means that the actual note that sounds is this one, an E7. So if we see from this G to the one that would be here, we have one octave. To the one that would be here, we have another octave. Then we have another one, so 3 octaves and a half, maybe. It is a wide range. Let's continue. Let's see the fingering. Well, here I put this slide in the violin part, but the fingering is the same in all the both string instruments. So here we have this picture of, I think it is a girl, and she's putting her hand like if she were about to hold a violin. Here we could have the neck of the instrument. And so this finger, the thumb, we don't use it when we play string instruments. At least when we play the violin and the viola, we never use it because it's behind the neck. So that's why when we number the fingers, we say this, the thumb is number 0. And so the index is number 1, the middle finger is number 2, the ring finger number 3, and the pinky or the little finger number 4. I know that this is different from the piano. In the piano, you have the thumb is number 1, the index number 2, and so on. So you have to remember this because sometimes you will see fingerings in the string music, or you just have to know how it works. Well, now let's talk about the positions. The string players learn these positions when they are learning to play the instrument. These are positions for the left hand. See that here we will be focusing on the fourth string and the first position. That means this G, you get it by playing the fourth string as an open string. Then, if you want to get an A, you have to press your index. Press the string with your index finger. Then, if you want to get this B, you press the string with the second finger, the middle finger, and so you get the C by pressing the third finger, and then D pressing the fourth. Now, if you shift that position and you play with your first finger, remember that the first finger is the index. So you can play a B with your index. This is second position. Now you press the other fingers, so the second finger will give you a C, the third finger will give you a D, and the fourth finger gives you an E. And you can do that in first position, second position, third, fourth, fifth, up to the seventh position. At least in the orchestra, you can use those 7 positions. Probably when violin players are playing, let's say, without the orchestra, they are playing alone, they can reach higher positions, but they are not practical in orchestral writing. Now, let's see how this works on the third string. Again, this note that is in brackets means that is an open string, so you don't press any finger. Now, if you want to get this E, you put down your index finger, and then if you want to get an F, you put down your second finger, and so on. So you can play these 7 positions in each of the 4 strings. Well, now let's see multiple stops. Here we have multiple stops are 2 or more notes on adjacent strings played simultaneously. Well, we have double stops. That is when we play two notes simultaneously. Then we have triple stops. That is when we play 3 notes simultaneously, and quadruple stops. Actually, when string players do triple and quadruple stops, they don't do it simultaneously. They arpeggiate it, but well, they are called multiple stops. Now, let's see. Here we have 3 examples that are impossible to play. Let's see why. Here we have a G and a B. So we would have to play those 2 notes on the lower string, and that is impossible. If you take a string instrument, you will see that it is impossible to play in one string 2 different pitches simultaneously. So here it happens the same. We have A and D. Sorry, and C. if we want to play that on the violin, it is impossible to play it because we can't play those two notes on the fourth string. And the same here. Remember that the third string of the violin starts in D4. So these two notes are below D4. So we cannot play them simultaneously. Now, here we have a lot of possible combinations, but there are another possible combinations that are not written down here. Now, let's see this one. Can any of you tell me how do I play this interval on a violin?
Yes. With two open strings.
Yeah, perfect. So you take the fourth string and the third string and play them simultaneously, throwing the bow. Exactly. And so, how do you play this one?
It would be the same, but on the D string, you're playing the E, right?
Yeah, perfect. You guys, what instruments do you play?
I also play the double bass.
The double bass? Wow, great. That will help you a lot with fingering and with the understanding of string instruments. And Laura and Iris?
I only play the piano.
Great.
Me too.
Okay, so you'll have to learn all these different possibilities, the fingering, the tuning. Maybe you'll have to study a little bit more, but you'll get it. Well, here we have another possible interval. How do we play this? We play the C on the fourth string and the E on the D string. Let's see another one. This one, for example. We have perfect fifth, so we know that this one is an open string, this one is an open string, and this one also. And well, here you have some combinations that you can see. Let's move to the next topic, the viola. Well, the viola is the alto voice of the string orchestra.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
So in one position, the left hand, whatever position.
In what position?
Whatever, first position, seventh position. Does it play four notes? Like, so how many, and everything in between, and all the semitones in between?
Yeah, you can, of course, you can play all the chromatic pitches on the violin. You can, well, actually, you can use different fingerings. That's why I have not included them, because we would have to study a lot of different cases. But in the violin, you can move your finger just a little bit, and you get a minor second. So, for example, that you are playing, I don't know, let's see here. Let's suppose that you are playing this C with your third finger. You can move it a little bit, and you will get C sharp.
This is the furthest we can play a tritone, like a D sharp with the fourth finger, let's say, or could it be able to play E semitone further?
A tritone?
Like I can play La So A, B, C, D. I can assume I can play D sharp because I can see.
Yes.
But can I play E, the same position, or have I moved position?
No, I think in the violin you can do it. You can play a tritone because the distance are really small. So if you want to do a minor second, you have to move your finger just a little bit.
Okay.
But because you play the double bass, in the double bass you have really long distances, let's say, between pitches, and you have to stretch your hand a lot.
Yes. In one position, we have 3 semitones, where here they have so many.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the double bass, I think that you have to, if you want to play a major second, you have to use fingers 1 and 3.
1 and 4. We don't use fingers
3. 1 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Okay. Okay. I have more questions, but maybe later.
Okay. Well, let's see the viola. We were saying that it's the alto voice of the string orchestra. Viola music is usually notated in the alto clef, but to avoid letter lines, the upper notes are sometimes written in treble clef. Well, usually you will see that we use the alto clef. That's the most common thing. I wrote here the different clefs just to remember them. Here we have the middle C. The middle C is this one, the one that in the piano we call middle C. Is C4. This is another way of talking about the registers. This is called a superscript number. And well, there we have middle C in treble clef. Here we have the same middle C in alto clef. See that this is a C clef placed on the 3rd line of the staff. Here we have the tenor clef, so middle C is placed on the 4th line of the staff. And well, here the middle C on the bass clef. So when we write music for the viola, we use the alto clef, and sometimes if the melody goes really high, we can use the treble clef. There we are. Well, now the tuning in a lot of aspects is similar to that of the violin, because the viola is also tuned in fifths. So let's see. This is the lowest string on the viola, the 4th string, and it's a C3. So the C3, remember that is 1 octave lower, 1 octave below middle C. So if you play the 3rd string, you get a G. And well, here you have a perfect fifth. And from G to D, that is the 2nd string, you have a perfect fifth again. And here another perfect fifth from D to A. See that these 3 pitches are the same that the ones we get with open strings in a violin. This is the 4th string of the violin. This is the 3rd one, and this is the 2nd. So now we know that the violin and the viola share 3 strings, and this is, let's say, the special string of the viola, the one that the violin doesn't have. Well, so remember that the violin is tuned like this, and the viola is a perfect fifth below. Now, let's continue. The range. Again, here we are talking about the orchestral range, and in general, every time you see, you read an orchestration manual, an orchestration book, you will see that they give the orchestral range of different instruments. Because in the orchestra, when composers write, they usually don't use the most difficult techniques and the highest notes. Well, so the range of the viola goes from here, C3, to here. And of course that you can play all the chromatic pitches in between. Well, again, the positions. If you want to play the first position on the viola, you have to put your index finger and you get on the fourth string. So let me think. Yeah. So you get this D. So these notes are D, E, F, and G. Remember that we are in the alto clef. So on the fourth string, if we shift the position of our hand, we get to the second position. These notes are E, F, G, and A. Then in the third position, we have F, G, A, and B, and so on. We can go through the fourth position, fifth position, up to the seventh position. And well, so remember that you can use 7 positions in each of the 4 strings. If you don't have a string instrument in your house, just try to imagine that you have the instrument and play in the air. It doesn't matter. Move the fingers like if you were playing them, so you can understand how they work. Well, the multiple stops in the viola. Once that we have understood how the multiple stops work on the violin, then in the viola is very similar. The instrument is a little bit bigger than the violin, so you have to stretch a little bit more your fingers. Sometimes that can make it a little bit like uncomfortable to play, but well, so it's like the violin, but you have to stretch your fingers a little bit more. Double. Well, let's see. Again, here we have 3 different examples of impossible double stops. This is an open string. Here we have the pitches C and E. So it is impossible to play these 2 pitches on the lowest string. Here we have C and F. So again, all these combinations are not possible to play in one string. And here we have a couple of possible double, triple, and quadruple stops. Here we have D, an open string, and G. So it is a perfect fifth from D to G. So we play the fourth and the third open strings. This is the same example as Laura said some minutes ago. Here you have an open string, and here you have to press the string with your finger, with your index finger, on the third string. Here we have a third F, E and G. So that third, you play this note, the lower note, on the fourth finger, on the fourth string, sorry. And the upper note in the third string. Sorry, I didn't mention the other combinations, but these are just all different possible combinations. It would be great that you analyze each of them during the week. I will send you this PowerPoint file so you can see slide by slide and can review a little bit all this information. Well, here, for example, we have the first triple stop. Here we have a perfect fifth from C to G and another perfect fifth from G to D. So how do you play that? Well, those are the fourth string, the third string, and the second string as open strings. And well, then at the end, here we have two different quadruple stops. Well, let's continue. Let's go with the cello. Again, the parts of the cello are the same. This wooden stick is always called the bow. This is called always the fingerboard. This is called the scroll, and these are the pegs. Well, here you have the F holes, the bridge, and one thing I forgot to say earlier. In the string instrument, you have fine tuners. That is when you want to make subtle differences of pitch. I mean, subtle difference of tuning. Because with the pegs, you can tune your instrument. For example, if you move it a little bit, maybe you get a minor second. But if you want to make like more subtle changes, you use the fine tuners that are here. Well, the cello is both the tenor and the bass of the string section. This is because sometimes the cello plays melodies in the orchestra, and when it plays melodies, it goes a little bit higher, and so there is singing like in a tenor register. So that is why it is considered the tenor sometimes. And in other cases, in the string section, the double basses are not playing because they don't play all the time. And so when the double basses are not playing, then the cello becomes the bass. That's why in the books of orchestration you see that the cello has this double function as tenor and as a bass. Well, here we have all music for the cello is written in either the bass, tenor, or treble clef. The most common thing is to write it in the bass clef, but sometimes when you play melodies, you can use the tenor clef, especially when you have to avoid a lot of lateral lines. And well, if it has really, really high melodies, you can use the treble clef. This is the tuning of the cello. Again, this instrument is tuned in fifth. So this is the lowest note. It's a C. That is, we are here. If you play the fourth string, you get this note. Then if you play the third string, you get this one. Then the second string and the first one. So if you play all of them, you see that it's tuned in fifth. So now we know that the violin, the viola, and the cello, they are all tuned in fifth. So it's easy to remember the tuning. You just have to remember which is the lowest string, and then the other ones are just fifth. So remember, the violin started on the G3, then the viola fifth lower, starting on C, and then the cello. Well, the cello actually it has the same pitch classes that has the viola, but an octave lower. So this is the tuning of the viola, and this is the tuning of the cello. It is just the same tuning, but an octave lower. Let's continue. The range. It goes from this note. How do we get this note? Well, it's an open string, the fourth string as an open string, and the G5. And of course that we can play all the chromatic pitches in between. Okay, now let's see the double bass. The double bass is a little bit different. Now we'll see why. Well, you see that it is a really big instrument. Georgios probably know about that. See that it has a really big bridge compared to the other string instruments. And well, the parts are the same. Here we have the fingerboard, and this is the shoulder of the instrument. So all the parts, the names of the part of the instrument are the same. well, here we have, this is the real bass voice of the string section, because, of course, when the double bass has a written part, when they have a written part, they are the real bass, because they are doing the lowest part. Then, if we talk about the clefs that we use the bass clef, is the most common. Then we could use the tenor clef, as we do with the cello, or the treble clef. But those are like kind of exceptions, let's say. The general rule is that if you write for the cello and the double bass, you use the bass clef. And another really important aspect of the double bass is that it is a transposing instrument. So transposing instruments are the ones that they see a written note, but they sound, when they play, they produce another pitch different than the pitch that it is written in the score. So the double bass, it is a transposing instrument, and it transposes an octave down. So, for example, if you see written in the score this C, they will play and it will sound one octave lower. It will sound this. Now, the tuning is different because it is tuned in fourths. So these are the written notes: E, A, D, and G. But it sounds an octave lower. Sometimes the double basses have 5 strings, and so first let's see the range of this one, of the 4 string double bass. This is the written range. It goes from E to the written range. It goes from here to here. But it actually sounds from this one to this one. This is why, let's say, in the last centuries, composers and theorists have decided that the double bass has to be a transposing instrument, because if it wasn't, we would have to write this. If we want to get this note, we would have to write 1, 2, 3, 4 letter lines, and that is very uncomfortable to read. And so, to avoid all these letter lines, it is better to make it a transposing instrument and write in this range. Okay, now let's see the 5-string bass. It is the same as the 4-string bass. It only has another string that sounds like this. It is a C. So here we kind of break our pattern, because from E to A we have a perfect fourth, from A to D we have a perfect fourth, from D to G we have a perfect fourth, and here we have a major third. So this is the tuning of the 5-string double bass, the written. I'm going to play the written tuning. But it actually sounds like this. Well, let's continue a little bit. Now we have seen the violin, the viola, the cello, and the double bass. Now let's see some general things that all these instruments can do. They can play with vibrato. Vibrato is a technique that consists of they have to move their left hand, so they make like little differences in the pitch. It sounds, instead of sounding without vibrato, that could be with vibrato, it would sound like and string players, if they want, they can do a slow vibrato, something like or a fast vibrato, and all the possibilities that are in between. So
I need to leave. I have a lesson now.
Okay. Yes, okay. We are. Okay, leave, no problem.
Bye.
Bye. Well, yes, we are in time, so we'll continue with this the next lesson. We'll try to finish the next lesson talking about the this general aspect of the strings, and so in the next one we will let me remember. Yes,